1290, Spain forced the conversion of these Jews, which became increasingly violent. So some of them were converted, about a third of them were converted at the point of a sword. Another third did not convert, they were killed. And another third fled for their lives. So we're talking about the Spanish Inquisition of the 15th century. So when that happened, they dispersed into the areas of what they would consider New Spain, and into later on into Germany, but they kept being pushed out. And so the crypto Jews means that they were the ones that converted actually hid their faith and practiced Judaism in secret, even though they outwardly confessed at the force of their life. They're having their life on their line, and so. Basically, the crypto Jews, when they actually began to flee into other countries because of the oppression that they had been under persecution in Spain, they kept that hidden. They kept that secretive. Matter of fact, a lot of them, Laurel, changed their Jewish names over to Anglo-Saxon names, their European names. So they tried to basically cover up their identity. So because of the persecution they were incurring all throughout the 15th and 16th centuries. Even when they got into Mexico sometime in the 1591, there was even a Mexican Inquisition that really began persecuting them in spurts. And so they began to flee into areas of New Spain. Well, guess where that was? That was now in what we would consider New Mexico. And so they were being pushed and pushed and pushed. So I began to look into this because, we know Juan de Ornate and Coronado and a lot of these guys came in, sailed over from Spain. De Vargas, de Sosa, a lot of these guys came over in the 15th and 16th centuries. And of course, Coronado is pretty much famous for his search for the seven cities of gold, and which he never found. But he went up through the American Southwest, up through the Rio Grande, followed that up, and then he went all the way up through Santa Fe, made a right turn, went all the way over to West Texas. He never did find it, but we know there's plenty of evidence for the Spanish being over here. Basically, but there's not a lot of documentation of there being Jewish colonies in the area around New Mexico in the 15th and 16th century. That doesn't mean that a few of them weren't here. I think they were. Just not enough evidence for colonization. But it's interesting, between 1840 and 1860, there's ample evidence for the Jewish immigration of German Jews between 1840 and 1860 over here to this country, and they settled in what is around Albuquerque and Santa Fe, New Mexico. So it's quite interesting. We have a lot of documentation on that. And in the 1860s, they began to open up. Matter of fact, there was a district in downtown Santa Fe back in the 1850s, 1860s, known as the Little Jerusalem. So they began to really openly practice their culture again. There was certain things that made a public display that their culture was being reactivated, and they were accepted. And so the question is that sometime between this German Jewish immigration in 1840, did this Decalogue stone, did that have some kind of connection with this immigration during that time period? Now, from the evidence that I have now, and that what we know is that there may be indeed a possibility that there's a connection with this. And because Head Mountain may look similar to, or may have reminded them of Mount Sinai, they may have wrote the Ten Commandments on that stone, and in remembrance of the law given on Mount Sinai to Moses, Up at the top, what they call the altar stone, is another inscription. Laurel in Paleo Hebrew is the name of God, Yahweh Eloheinu. And so it may be something to do with that. The problem is that it can't be proven either as authentic, but it can't be disproven either. No one has ever came out and said, you know what, I did it, it's a hoax. Usually when there's a hoax, there's someone behind the hoax, waiting behind the scenes, or pointing to the thing going, hey, look what I found, this is it, here I am. And there's not been any of that. So the fact that no one's come out to basically make the claim after all these years leans towards authentication, but the purpose for it is a whole nother matter. Why did they do it? It may be these crypto Jews in the area of New Mexico that did it in remembrance of the law of Mount Sinai.
Aaron, let me stop you for just a second. We need to take a break. I've got a really good question from someone in the chat room about Maro, I may say this wrong, Bellino. Bellino, okay, but we need to take a break for just a couple of minutes, and then we're going to come back. So everyone, you're listening to the Epic Voyages show on InceptionRadioNetwork.com. This is Aaron Judkins, Dr. Aaron Judkins, talking to us about the Decalogue Stone in Los Lunas, New Mexico. And we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. I'll give you the phone number, and we'd encourage you to call in and talk to him yourself. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
The Extraordinary Phenomenon Investigations Council presents Epic Voyages. Come join us as we enter and experience the great mysteries of the world with tonight's host,
Laurel Tague. Welcome, everybody, to the Epic Voyages radio show on www.InceptionRadioNetwork.com. This is Laurel Tague, and my guest tonight has been with us before, Dr. Aaron Judkins. We're going to be talking tonight about a very interesting artifact in New Mexico that Aaron has had the great pleasure to see firsthand, and he's got a DVD and a YouTube video on it, and we're going to be giving you references to that. Let me tell you a little bit about Aaron, first of all. Aaron is he has a doctorate in biblical archaeology, and he lives in the North Texas area. He's an author, an explorer, and an archaeologist. Aaron is actually credited with mapping the longest continuous dinosaur trail in the Western Hemisphere, and I believe one that has human footprints in the caliche alongside of it. Aaron can set me straight on that. He's been in the U.S. and Israel. He's been all over the world in archaeological digs. He's been on the History Channel, and we have some surprise announcements later in the show about Aaron that I'm very excited about talking about. But let's welcome Aaron tonight, and we're going to be talking about the Los Lunas Decalogue Stone, which is about 30 or 40 miles south of Albuquerque in a mountain range, an 80-ton boulder. Aaron, how are you doing tonight?
Hi, Laurel. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back on the broadcast.
Oh, I'm glad you're here. It's my pleasure. Tell us a little bit about how you first heard about the Decalogue Stone and what made you want to go check into it.
Well, I was doing a radio show, and I had a caller call in live, and they said, what do you know about the Decalogue Stone? And I scratched my head and paused, and I said, well, I'm not sure, never heard of it. Incidentally, I had a colleague not too long after who was showing me some pictures of some strange writing that was out in the New Mexico desert. So I asked him, I said, is this has anything to do with what they're calling the Decalogue Stone? He said, well, I think that's right. He said, we went out there to look at it, and I don't know what it is, but here's some pictures. Maybe you can make sense out of it. And so I was very intrigued, and I began to do some research into it and decided to make a documentary to delve into what was behind this mysterious stone. As a matter of fact, Laurel, the natives over in that area of the U.S. near Los Lunas, New Mexico, refer to it as the Mystery Stone. And so I decided to go see what it was all about.
And it's not really easy to get to, right? I mean, it's not like it's hidden, but you have to kind of really know where you're going. I found one site online that actually has the GPS coordinates published for it. And yet that disturbs me a little bit because it seems like also being out there in the middle of nowhere, it's subject to vandalism issues. Is that not right?
Well, it's very hard to get to. You have to have a permit to actually get out on the land. It borders Isoleta Indian Reservation land, BLM land, and private property ranch land. So it's really checkerboarded in there, and we had to go through the proper channels of the state to get the proper permits to be on there, which we did. It's still quite difficult to get to, and the cell reception is nearly just non-existent out there. There's no water. It's out in the desert, and it's very, very hard to find. I probably would not have found it had I not had a guide to take me right there. But once you get in there, it's you understand, where it is, and it's on a mountain called Hidden Mountain, and so this mountain is kind of tucked away behind a bigger mountain, and it's just really hard to see until you get right up on it, and then boom, there it is. So it's pretty interesting. But the natives over there call it the Mystery Stone for good reason, because it has some very strange writing on there that shouldn't be out there in the New Mexico desert.
Okay, so Aaron, tell us the story about the Decalogue Stone.
Well, the Los Lunas Decalogue. Now, let's, define Decalogue for people who don't know what that term means. Decalogue just means it's a reference to the Ten Commandments. Now, some people call this the Ten Commandments rock. So Decalogue just means Ten Commandments. So the Los Lunas Decalogue Stone, or Mystery Stone, is a large boulder